Good afternoon, everybody. David Steinman reports. David Steinman here, talking to you from the West Coast. How are you doing on the East Coast? How are you doing in the Midwest? How are you doing down in the Deep South? I've got friends everywhere across this land, so I hope you're all doing well. Well, I was up late last night. I was working on a piece, and it just came out on Medium at the Environment magazine. So I'm going to share it with you, but I want you to go there and I want you to sign the Sierra Club petition about AI data centers. And that's kind of what this piece is about. It's a little bit personal too, in terms of the mood that I was feeling, but I really want you to go there. It's at Medium at the Environment magazine. And I want to share it with you today because I think it's going to capture what a lot of people are feeling these days. So I'll kind of read from it and then, extrapolate as well, if that's okay with you. I called it Death by a Thousand Cuts, Data Centers, Wetlands, and a Government Looking the Other Way. From borderlands to Indiana marshes, the micro attacks keep adding up, while the hottest July on record burns on, and most of us are just trying to pay the bills. I'm reading the headlines this lazy weekend afternoon. Country is at war with humanity and nature. Most of us, we're just trying to pay our bills. And we don't see much help coming from the government. In fact, we see just the opposite. When it comes to the news, what I read and hear from a variety of sources, including my own reporting, has been casting a dismal cloud. The sun is too hot. We are boiling, and our leaders aren't up to the task. This is the hottest July on record in the contiguous United States, since such records were kept starting in 1895, according to the NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. By the way, all the references are here. I'm just reporting the facts, giving you the receipts, and giving you the most logical way of looking at this thing for the advancement of the United States and its people. It's positively frightening to me that this is the hottest July. What kind of climate will my children confront? Our government officials are doing everything they can to accelerate global warming. They are taking away our grass, wetlands, and even cottonwood trees. Simultaneously, I've reported on so many micro attacks. They are causing cumulative damage, just like the little poisons that circulate in the environment and get into our bloodstream and our fat tissues and our brain and our testicles and our breasts, our tissues. Our children. All of this cumulative damage, we seem to be missing it. At least our leadership is unable to address it. And none of it seems to outweigh a Middle East war when it comes to the public's social media and news attention. I've reported on the Arizona cottonwoods along the southern borderlands that were recently bulldozed and toppled, and a 1,000-year-old geoglyph that was desecrated. 6,000-year-old paintings are now at risk as the border wrecking crews have moved into Big Bend National Park without any rules or regulations since the president waived them. Here's a picture of Big Bend. This is really bad, folks. This is happening here while they have you focused on Iran and the West Bank and Ramallah and Bethlehem. My God, look what's happening to our democracy and to the will of the people and just to the anti-nature and lack of sacredness among this Epstein elite. I've had to report on the dismal loss of our civil rights via the Supreme Court, which has shielded pesticide companies from liability for sicknesses their products cause. And on the Farm Bill, when so many MAGA Republicans and a few Democratic politicians and one independent voted in Congress for the same immunity laws. Here they are bulldozing a cottonwood along them. See, it's happening. My soul is unsettled. Productivity appears as an afterthought today, and my restless mind flies full speed, anxiously seeking a landing spot. Much like the flocks of Canadian geese that one day soon may be flying over what were once 4 acres of protected wetland in the Fort Wayne area of northeastern Indiana. Another a micro attack. Another headline. They keep adding up. Google Data Center announces plans to pave over protected wetlands, warns the futurism headline. Residents of Fort Wayne, Indiana may have to say goodbye to over 4 acres of federally protected wetland. At least if Google has its way, the article continues. New reporting by local publication Wayne revealed that a company called Hatchworks LLC, a data center developer for the tech giant, basically Google, is looking to fill in several acres of federal wetlands as part of the third phase of Project Zodiac, a $2 billion hyperscale data center project. The company Hackworks LLC, a Google-related entity, is so confident that it will bulldoze its way over the rights of the community that it has already set a date in September for construction to begin. There's been no review, none, and they've already set a date. Google's Project Zodiac is but one of nearly 3,000 new data centers under construction or planned across the U.S., per a new analysis shared first with Axios. More than 4,000 are already in operation. Virginia is the national leader. It has 663 operating data centers and 595 under construction or planned, according to a 2025 report by the ProTech American Edge Project and Technology Councils of North America. Texas is also building a destination for IT with 405 data centers already built and another 442 in process. Georgia and Pennsylvania are among the states due for particularly big data center booms, if all goes to plan, Axios reports. Georgia currently has 162 data centers and is slated for 85 more, a 176% increase if all are built. Pennsylvania has 98 with 84 more potentially on the way, 188%. Residents and environmental groups across the country have pushed back heavily against data centers. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, represented by Earth Justice and the Southern Environmental Law Center, has sued Elon Musk's AI plan, located in the border area of Tennessee and Mississippi, alleging its ad hoc power plant with some 57 gas turbines operates without proper Major Source Clean Air Act permits, reports Politico, adding that is enough to power an estimated 738,000 to 950,000 homes. It would be great if the federal government was working for us. In the XAI legal case, President Donald Trump's administration has asked a federal judge to block the NAACP lawsuit, Reuters report. Instead, just the opposite is happening. We have a federal government that is intent on using data centers like XAI to foster a war that most Americans also oppose. Rock's continued operation and availability is a matter of paramount national security because it is one of only 4 cutting-edge AI models that can support national security applications, and one of just 3 suitable for mission-critical operations across secret and top-secret classified networks. The U.S. Department of Justice told District Judge Deborah Brown, presiding over the lawsuit in federal court in Mississippi, also as reported in Politico. The relief sought by the NAACP threatens American national economic and energy security by seeking to shut off the power supply for artificial intelligence innovation that supports the Department of War's military operations. Politico reports the DOJ noted that the military used Grok during Operation Epic Fury, also known as Epstein Fury, the massive U.S. attack on Iran, to aid in the deployment of more than 2,000 munitions to 2,000 distinct targets within 96 hours. I wonder if that's why we killed something like 165 or 168 school children, mainly girls, in the initial round of bombing. Thanks, Grok. That's what they're doing. They're conducting a war and then saying we have to trample on all your rights here in the Tennessee, Mississippi area. You're going to listen to the hum. You're going to breathe the nitrogen oxide and the carcinogens from the diesel and the natural gas. You're going to have asthma. Your kids are going to grow up with lower IQs, and we're going to keep bombing Iran in a hopeless war and then claim this is all national security. It's really insanity and hatred. Communities in Arizona, Texas, Indiana, Tennessee, and Georgia certainly are not alone. The pushback is everywhere. If there's one thing most Americans across the country agree on, it's that they hate data centers, writes Shimon Shah in Time magazine. A June Reuters poll found that just a third of Americans approve of the pace of data center construction, and only 14% are comfortable with a data center being built nearby. On July 18th, a national day of protest against data centers saw 142 protests across 42 states. But is it enough? I am thinking of death by 1,000 cuts. We can't get rid of government. We need better government. Government can do good. Back in Indiana, the giant Canadian goose was once thought to be extinct. One race of Canada geese historically nested throughout Indiana and much of the rest of the Midwest, according to an article along the South Shore. It was called the giant Canada goose because it regularly grew to 15 pounds or more. By the time the Midwest was settled, few of the giant Canadas were still alive. Mostly they'd gone into the pot of early settlers or had fallen victim to wetland drainage projects. By the 1950s, biologists declared the giant Canada subspecies to be extinct. Then, in the early 1960s, a waterfall biologist discovered a remnant population of giant Canadas. They were in Minnesota. Breeding programs were started. Indiana's project was headquartered in northern Indiana at Jasper Pulaski Fish and Wildlife Area south of the Kankakee River. Today, the geese population is around 99,000, but they, like other endangered species in the Hoosier State, depend on these micro wetlands, some of which are federally protected, but others which are not. These ones that Google wants to pave are, but all the rules and regulations have been removed. More than 60 wetland-dependent animal species are listed as endangered, threatened, or of special concern in Indiana, according to the Indiana University Center for Earth and Environmental Science. A great variety of plants thrive in wetlands, and many are wholly dependent on wetland habitats. Because so many wetlands have been lost or degraded, there are more than 120 species of wetland plants in Indiana that are endangered, threatened, or rare. I want to mention that Aubrey Hampton, who founded Aubrey Organics, came from Indiana. He came from the Hoosier State. He was one of the greatest herbalists in American history. God bless you, Aubrey. Locals are concerned that the amount of wetland loss is being minimized. Google already plans to fill in more than 6 acres of wetlands for the 6 buildings of phases 1 and 2, explains the local FW.com, a Fort Wayne news outlet. Combined with the new projected losses, 2.47 acres, the amount would reach 8.54 acres, not counting future phases of the campus build-out, which is expected to total 12 buildings. Any wetland that is removed is not going to be replaced by wetlands that are as good, says Bruce Kingsbury, a professor of biology at Purdue University. That's actually why the ratio is greater, because it's acknowledged that the wetlands are not as good for many sorts of wildlife, for example. Kingsbury adds that when you just take a quarter acre here and a quarter acre there over and over again, it adds so to me, you have to resist that loss every single time somebody wants to do it. Better oversight would lead to better out. There are alternative approaches Google to take, like they don't have enough money or expertise. Instead of filling and paving the natural marshland at all, the company could redesign the footprint and use a compact multi-building layout, building multi-story sewer facilities instead of spreading out horizontally. Utility and wastewater lines could be rerouted around the sensitive woodlot. The Department of Environmental Management, the IDEM, has scheduled a virtual public hearing on August 25th, 2026 to address the community's environmental concerns before construction is slated to begin in mid-September, as I told you. You can take part in this virtual hearing and your voice can be heard. So go to my story at the environment, especially if you're from the nearby area of Indiana or nearby there in other states. This is important to all of us, but you're on the front lines. I will cover more, and I will be there too to speak to this issue. I will cover more of these battles all over the country, but for now, on this day, I keep coming back to those geese. Once declared extinct, the giant Canadas were brought back through deliberate care. People who decided the wetlands mattered enough to fight for them. Now their descendants fly over places that may soon be concrete and server farm, and the same quiet math is happening again. Quarter acre here, 2.5 acres there, another 6 already approved. It never looks like the whole story until it is filled. The August 25th virtual hearing is one small chance to push back before the September of bulldozers arrive in Fort Wayne. I will be listening. I will keep reporting the other battles, Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, and wherever the next Project Zodiac plants its flag. Because the sun is still too hot, the cuts are still accumulating, and the only thing that has ever reversed a declaration of extinction is people who refuse to accept it as final. My restless mind still hasn't found its landing spot, but the geese remind me that landing spots can be rebuilt if enough of us insist on it. Oh, by the way, a petition from the Sierra Club just came into my email box. Yet another headline, this one not letting me off the hook, pleading, tell the EPA don't hide the data center air pollution from the public. Now Trump's EPA is proposing to eliminate federal public participation requirements for many minor source air pollution permits. The very permits used for these tractor-trailer-sized diesel generators, often used by data centers as backup energy sources. This makes it harder for communities to understand, question, and challenge new pollution from data centers. Go to my story at the environment on Medium to tell the EPA to reject the proposed rule and protect every community's right to know, participate, protect their health, clean air, and climate. The link is right there in my story. You can subscribe to my newsletter also while you're on Medium at David William Steinman. You can subscribe to my podcast at Official David Steinman on YouTube. I thank everyone who has subscribed recently. I'm trying to bring you kind of a unique way of the news. I've been in the news business for a long time. I have a master's degree in journalism, and I've reported in many papers. My work's been reported on. I'll tell you more as we go along. My new book is Raising Healthy Kids, Protecting Your Children from Hidden Chemical Toxins. You can get it at Amazon.com. I'll come back on later for some more shows. I know everybody wants to hear somebody else talk in a way that they can listen to them, and it doesn't make them feel like that person is really uninformed or stupid. Hope I did that for you today. Talk to you later.